Peace, peace, peace. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know, it's your boy Vic Slay Hope. I got another live for y'all, right? And this one, the title is Black Mothers, How Black Mothers Can Do No Wrong in the Community, right? And I was supposed to go live at 8. My apologies. I was tired. I was out of it. And your body does have rights over you, and you got to adhere to those rights. Otherwise, you'll just crash. So I got a few video clips that I want to play for y'all. But it's today I want to just talk about how black mothers could do no wrong, right? When it comes to the community. What's good, my brother Kenny from the A. Yeah, I'm late. I was out. I was sleeping. But I want to talk about how black mothers could do no wrong, right? And we see this a lot of times. I'm gonna show y'all the video clip, and then I'm gonna come back. I got two video clips for y'all, and then I'm gonna come back and kind of like give my commentary on this matter because it is a important matter in our communities, right? A lot of times, um, bad mothers deflect the wrong things that they do to their children, right? And they deflect it in the disguise of, well, I was the only one that stayed. Like that makes things okay. That doesn't make shit. That doesn't make the harm that you done to that child okay because you was the one that stayed and the father wasn't around. And I get it. A lot of times there be frustration attached to it. We understand that. We human, but at the same time, both parents need to be held accountable. One for not being there, and one for being there, but also, abusing your child verbally, physically, and other things that they do to the children that we don't get to talk about because they deflect. So I'm gonna play this video clip for y'all. So be patient with me, and I'm gonna come back.
That's what I know, homie. Mama, they'll let mama get away with everything. Mama can't do no wrong in the eyes of a black boy. Mama can be a liar. Mama can be a dope fiend. Mama can be a hoe. Mama can be an abuser. Mama can be a molester. Mama can be a neglector. Man, mama get a pass in the black family. She can be the cause of all your pain. Nigga, you give your mama a pass. Daddy don't get no grace of nothing. But most black children are not processing their own pain of their father. They processing their pain on top of their mother's anger and hate that's been inherited or pushed off in or deposited on top of the kid's pain. The kid got their own pain from abandonment, feeling unloved and neglected by their father, on top of their parents' mother's anger and hate. When that nigga said mama was right, man, listen, many fathers are judged as fathers because they was bad husbands. Many fathers are judged as fathers because they are bad husbands. They got caught cheating and lying to the woman. Wasn't no good in lying to the woman, but was half-ass right with the kid. But because he was no good to the woman gonna make him no good to the kids. And that's a lot of what this is, my nigga. So I stand with P. Yeah, fuck Romeo and any other little motherfucker like him who done had a daddy, done half-ass done what Master P done done, man.
So this brother mentioned a few things. What's good, Liu Kang, Willie. Um, yeah, like so he mentioned a few things that I want to highlight, right? Like he mentioned how first thing he's saying that like, a mother could do no wrong and a black mother could do no wrong, right, to their children. And a lot of times I have these conversations. A lot of times I try to talk to mothers, right? Single moms, right? We try to have this conversation. Make sure y'all like the video so you can circulate. A lot of times I try to have this conversation with single mothers, right? And we try to talk about um how they picked the wrong guy to have children with, or we try to talk about accountability on their part, or we try to talk about the negative things that they done and how they have impacted their children. It's always a deflection. It's always well, I'm the one that stayed. It's always like they portray the victim, right? So you can stop pointing out their wrongs. They deflect, they gaslight, they manipulate you, they try to change the conversation, and it's like, and you notice with women in general, right? Women do this. They have a bad habit of, when you're trying to bring them up and uphold them to the shitty job that they doing, and I don't gotta be a mother, but when you try to uphold women and tell them like, yo, this is what you've been doing wrong. Can you change this? Can you do something a little different? You notice how most of the time, not all of them, but most of the time, they would deflect. Most of the times they start talking about you. But what about you? And you be doing this. And it's like, you never get to get accountability from a lot of them, or you never get to the root of the problem, because as soon as you bring up something that they doing wrong, they're gonna bring up something you done. They're gonna bring up something from the past, something that they so-called forgave you for. They're gonna just try to deflect the conversation off of them. Like, they try to push it to somebody else. They try to either push it to a circumstance, they try to blame circumstance, or they'll try to like just start talking about you, right? And a lot of times you don't really get nowhere. You don't even get to talk about what you wanted to talk to them about in the first place. So when it comes to the issues of Black mothers can't do no wrong, it's the similar thing, right? The moment you bring up something negative that the mother is doing to the child, how she's traumatizing the child, like if you tell her like, yo, you shouldn't be bringing up different men in your house to see your child, they'll start talking about like, I got a right to live too. It's not my fault. The father's not around. It's always a deflection, right? So, but the accumulation of trauma, right? Like Charleston said in the video, he said the children are already dealing with the abandonment of their father. They're not even necessarily dealing with it, but they still processing the abandonment, right? A lot of children grow up with abandonment issues. If you really think about it, most of the people who become narcissists, they either been abandoned by their parents, or they've been spoiled, like too enmeshed by their parents, right? So it's either or. They didn't get a healthy balance of not too much of like just a healthy balance of being there, right? A healthy balance of not really abandoning, but sometimes you got to let your children be children and make their own mistakes. And also like give them love, but don't give them too much love where you spoil them, right? So if that makes sense to some people. So yeah, so like the brother said, he said a woman could lie, she could be a cheater, she could be bringing dudes in and out of the house, she could prostitute, she could do a whole bunch of things, right? And when you try to bring it up, it's going to be like, well, I'm the one that stayed. I had to give money somehow. I had to do this. I had to do that. And I understand to a certain extent. But when you can acknowledge that you done some harm, like, for example, let's say a woman, like women get mad when I talk about the OnlyFans stuff. Think about it. All right, boom. Let's just say hypothetically, you needed that to get money to feed your child, right? Can you not also acknowledge that in doing so, you cause some harm to your children? And this be the conversation that we can't really have with some of our sisters. Can we also, because two things could be truth at once. You could say, boom, yeah, I needed the money, so drastic times call for drastic measure, blase, blase, blah. I'm not excusing the behavior. I'm just saying, I could understand where somebody coming from, but at the same time, can you understand where I'm coming from? Can you understand that partaking and participating in this type of behavior, can cause to traumatic events in your child's life, or traumatize them? Because think about it, a lot of these kids are gonna have to grow up, right? They're gonna have to grow up and go to school, and you was an OnlyFans girl. Everybody done seen your coochie for $4.99. Like, that shit is crazy, and I think a lot of women don't be thinking about that. They only think about, well, I'm the one that stayed. Like, and I keep saying that because if you heard the many times I heard that, if you heard the many times that women deflected the fucked up shit they done to their children, right? On, I'm the only one that stayed. You can't blame me. Yes, I can blame you. I can blame you for some of the things too, but because they so caught up in deflecting and talking about the man, we never really get to the root. So I want to show y'all this other video. Because this is like a crazy thing, man. I'm gonna show you this video.
Mama, I have a question. What's your retirement plan?
What you mean? You're my retirement plan. I didn't have no son for no reason.
Me? But Mama, you ain't got no money saved up nowhere or nothing like that?
Mama is still traveling, enjoying her life. Money saved up how? Plus, I'm gonna get benefits.
Well, I mean, you ain't gonna get no benefits. You was an OnlyFans girl, a video vixen, makeup, ain't nothing. A bottle girl, like no benefits come from that. The government don't give you benefits from that.
Well, then you better make sure you got a big ass house, all right? Because that's what I'm moving into if anything happens. Understand that, boy. Unless you're trying to tell me you don't love your mama, you gonna leave me out in the
No,
street
no,
and die.
Mama, I love you, but I don't think it should be mandatory because you messed up a little bit in life, and then I gotta pick up the pieces. I'm gonna be a grown man.
Boy, you gonna pick up these pieces and you gonna like it. What the fuck?
No,
You know, that's a little comedy. That's a little comedy right there. But that is so real. A lot of mothers have children, and the children are like the ticket out of the ghetto, or the children become like the ticket, which kind of shows the selfishness. It kind of shows the selfishness in a lot of these women, right? Like it's like like in that video is an example. Like I remember like a while back, my mother told me, she told me something about she told me the son is supposed to buy his mother the house or some shit like that, right? Which is very, because in the video I know he's saying some truth to it, right? He's saying, well, you the son, you the one that's supposed to buy me my house, or you the one that's supposed to take care of me. And I think like having children with the mindset that when they get older, they're supposed to take care of you, I agree with it, and I also disagree, right? And the part that I agree with it is this: if you took care of your child, you was there for your child, and you gave them tools to succeed in life, then yes, your children should take care of you. I agree with that. But let's be real. How many parents are actually giving their children the tools to succeed? How many mothers and fathers are actually giving their children the tools to succeed in life? A lot of children are growing up neglected, right? A lot of children are growing up having to fend for themselves. So how could you expect, right? So how can, and this is like where the selfishness comes in, right? When some of these parents engage in the selfish behavior, they just be dropping their kids off, and they in somebody's face every weekend at some party, doing whatever they doing, having their fun, living their life, like she said, traveling the world and doing whatever she's doing, right? When you out there doing that, and then you're not really pouring into, because there's a difference between maintaining a child, and then there's a difference between raising a child. There's a difference between raising and maintaining a child. Like, what are you really pouring into the child? Like, just food, clothing, shelter, that's just maintaining a child. What are you instilling? What values are you instilling in children? What are you giving them? What tools are you giving them that's going to help them go out there in the world and succeed? This is how you raise, right? This is how you pour into. This is other tools that you give your children. So a lot of parents are not even really doing that. A lot of parents are not really present. A lot of parents are neglectful. They are abusive. They do a lot of things to their children, but then they expect, then some parents be shocked, right? When the children grow up and they don't fuck with them like that, or they don't care to take care of them like that. Why? Because now it's the time of give back. It's all about how you raise your kids. Not saying that you could be a good mother and kids still might not turn out bad. But what I'm trying to highlight is that a lot of parents have this expectance. A lot of mothers expect certain things, and you didn't give them no tools. You didn't even give them an adequate upbringing. I seen a quote the other day that was talking about how can men come from single mother households, but treat women like shit. And the question is, you don't know how that mother raised him. You don't know what that mother did, right? You assuming that because he had a single mother, she was a great woman, because of course this is what they assume. You know, the women never do nothing wrong. You know, they're always the victims. They always get done wrong. They're just a victim of circumstance. Men are shitty. Men don't care about women. Well, but what about the women? You know what I'm saying? Like that's the narrative, right? The narrative is sisters never do nothing wrong, right? And because sisters never do nothing wrong, right? Because sisters never do nothing wrong. Sorry. They never even have the thoughts in the mind like, what did that mother do to the child, right? Could it be possible that she was abusive? Could it be possible that she was vindictive, manipulative, all type of things, right? We don't ever think about that. So a lot of times, some of these guys might not respect women, or they might not treat them a certain way because they might have some resentment towards their mother, right? Their mother might have been a bad mom, right? She might have been verbally abusive. She might have been one of those mothers that emasculates their children, their sons, right? Just like some women are in some secret competition with their daughters, and they talk to their daughters. They make it their job to lower the self-esteem of their daughters, right? Like it's a lot of fucked up stuff that women do to their children. But again, we never get to talk about it. We never get to bring these things up because when we do, it's the deflection and the victimization of I was the only parent there. Cool, we're not talking about that right now. We talking about what you actually did while you was parenting. We talking about the wrongs that you in the aggressions that you committed while you was parenting. But you never can have those conversations. Maybe when you get older, because I noticed that like when you become an adult, like I got to talk to my mother as I was an adult. We got to have like more grown-up conversations because when you a certain age, like your parents don't really want to hear from you. They really don't want to like and I told y'all this story many times, right? Like my mother didn't understand stop and frisk. And I think this is some of the issues when you are trying to have a conversation as a young man growing up in America with your mother. And I told y'all the story before. Like I remember when I got stopped by the police. I remember when the police came, they harassed me. I didn't have no ID. They ended up locking me up, taking me to the precinct, right? I literally didn't do anything. I was coming from my friend's house. My friend wasn't home. And they was like, show us the apartment. We're gonna go knock on the door, make sure you was there. And I'm like, I'm not giving up nobody's apartment. Like later on, his step pops was like, yo, you should have let them come knock on the door. I'm like, nah, bro, the police shouldn't be fucking with me like that. I told them, and it's not even about, it's not even about, oh, I could have just did that. It's about like, yo, the police was literally harassing me. Like if I told you I came from my friend's house, you pat frisked me, I didn't have nothing on me. Like let me go. But no, they wanted to overstep their boundaries. They wanted to. It's not against the law not to have ID, right? So they wanted to be extra. They wanted to do all that wild shit. Long story short, I go to the precinct. I call my mom. My mom had to bring my ID. What's up, Ash? My mom had to bring my ID. When my mom brings my ID, whatever, I'm leaving with her, and she said, "Yo, you always doing something." And I said to her, like, "Damn." I said, like, "Yo, like I really didn't do nothing. Like they literally just ran down on me, harassed me for no reason." She was like, "Nah, the police not gonna stop you for no reason." This was her mindset. Now she might not realize in that moment how that what she said to me, believing the cops over your own child, right? Or believing, I'm not saying children don't lie, but I'm just saying in that moment when I needed my mom, right? And the only person that I could kind of like confide in, and your mama bear is the protector, right? Mama bear, because daddy ain't around, so mama bear got to be the one to, she got to get on her mama bear shit. And in the moment, she wasn't mama bear. She chose the police. At least that's how I was looking at it. She chose the police over me. She said the police is not gonna stop you for no reason. The police not gonna lock you up if you wasn't doing nothing wrong. And I really didn't do nothing wrong, right? So I was like, all right, cool. From that moment on, that had a strained relationship with my mother, right? So I'm just giving you that as an example, but there's other examples of things that women do in certain situations, right? That kind of like lead to resentment from their children. And like Charles said in the video, and some of the emotions you haven't even processed them. Like a lot of these children, and some of the emotions, like you haven't even like some of these kids haven't even processed the abandonment of their fathers, because that brings about another feeling in the child, right? So another thing that he said was, and I'm gonna play the video again, but another thing that he said was, a lot of times fathers are deemed bad fathers because they cheated on the mom, because they maybe mistreated the mother, but that doesn't mean his relationship with the child was bad. And a lot of times bitter moms, if they are bitter about the father doing something to them, they create this strain with the child, right? They turn the child against the father. And that's one thing that I appreciate my mother for. My mother never badmouthed my father. She never said my father was a piece of shit. She never said my father She never said nothing crazy about my father. She always told me he can change. He can change. People change. People change. My mother always did that about my father. So I commend her for that. Because my mom used to always say, like, I don't gotta tell him nothing. He's gonna see for his own. He's gonna see what's going on. I don't gotta tell nobody nothing. Right. So I appreciate my mother doing that because she wasn't vindictive. She always allowed me to meet my cousins. She always allowed me. She always told me that's your uncle, that's your aunt. Like, she always been a family person. So she wasn't vindictive. But I'm gonna play the video because I know some new people came in. But make sure you like the video so it can circulate. Good looking, Kenny. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I'm gonna play the video again for some other folks because I forgot some of the things that he also said that I want to expound upon.
That's what I know, homie. Mama, they'll let mama get away with everything. Mama can't do no wrong in the eyes of a black boy. Mama can be a liar. Mama can be a dope fiend. Mama can be a hoe. Mama can be an abuser. Mama can be a molester. Mama can be a neglector. Man, mama get a pass in the black family. She can be the cause of all your pain. Nigga, you give mama a pass. Daddy don't get no grace of nothing. But most black children are not processing their own pain of their father. They processing their pain on top of their mother's anger and hate that's been inherited or pushed off in or deposited on top of the kid's pain. The kid got their own pain from abandonment, feeling unloved and neglected by their father, on top of their parents' mother's anger and hate. When that nigga said mama was right, man, listen, many fathers are judged as fathers because they was bad husbands. Many fathers are judged as fathers because they are bad husbands. They got caught cheating and lying to the woman. Wasn't no good in lying to the woman, but was half-ass right with the kid. But because he was no good to the woman gonna make him no good to the kids. And that's a lot of what this is, my nigga. So I stand with P. Yeah, fuck Romeo and any other little motherfucker like him who done had a daddy, done half-ass done what Master P done done, man.
Trolling that, aside from the trolling that Charleston be doing sometimes, man, he be saying some real shit. You right, Ash? Like, a lot of our sisters can't take accountability. They just can't, right? They have a hard time taking accountability for the things they done. Because like, even when I try to talk to women, and this is what frustrates me, right? Even when, like, if I'm dealing with a woman romantically, every time this has happened to me across so many different women, right? Like, and so when men be trying to tell women some of the stuff y'all doing, it's like it don't get heard. Like, it's like women would say men don't listen, but it's like, do you listen? Are you listening to what I'm trying to tell you? See, because my own mother wasn't listening to me when I tried to tell her this is what's going on out there. The police have a vendetta. Like, they literally are rounding young black men up and harassing them, right? I'm not saying that there's not black men in the community doing shit, and I think this is also part of the problem. This difference between niggas and black people, and they look alike. They dress the same, they listen to the same music, they look alike. So the police is also having a hard time trying to figure out who's the niggas and who's the black people. So I get it. But at the same time, a lot of parents, and we talk about mothers, they don't even listen to their children when their children try to tell them something. They don't even listen to their children, right? And then it's like me in adulthood, when I be trying to talk to women and I be trying to bring up, to amend the relationship and try to tell them, like, you know what, well, this is what you're doing. Do you think you could change this? It's like, it's always, anytime I bring up something, and this is most, not all, but just most of the people I dealt with. Anytime I try to bring up something, it's always a deflection. It's always, but you did this, but you did. And it's like, yo, can we not talk about me right now? We talking about you. Because when we talking about me, I know how to be accountable. I know how to be like, you know what, my bad. I could apologize for that. Like, I'll work on it. That's not me deflecting. But if every time I bring up your stuff, if every time I bring up what you done, I appreciate it, brother. But if every time I bring up what you done that's wrong, you're quick to say, but what about when you did this? we never going to get anywhere. We are never going to get anywhere. And this is what a lot of black mothers do, right? The moment you bring a mom, you know what? It was kind of foul, like how you raised me, right? It was kind of foul how you used to verbally abuse me. It was kind of foul that you used to do some of the things you used to say to me. They're gonna be quick, but like I was the one that stayed. Go take that shit to your father. Not all women. And it's annoying that I gotta keep saying that shit, right? But there's a lot of hurt. Like the brother said, there's a lot of hurt. You know, when I was in prison, I forgave my pops because the rancor, and I'm not saying I didn't forgive my mom, right? But the rancor that you hold on to because of the abandonment of your pops, like he said, we still kind of processing that. A lot of times we don't even know how that affects us in adulthood. We don't even know how that affects us in childhood, the abandonment of your father, right? And then the anger of your mom. And let's say your mother, because this is another thing I noticed. A lot of women be pregnant. Like this is why I don't understand. A lot of women be pregnant and they be single during their pregnancy, right? They don't even be with the supposed to be baby fathers, right? So it's like, so if that woman is angry during pregnancy, if that woman is already enraged, she already feels some type of way towards that man, that gets passed to the fetus, right? A lot of people are not even cognizant of this, right? The trauma that you got, the historical trauma, generational trauma. We're not blaming you for that. We're not blaming you for nothing. I'm just having a conversation. But if you're angry at the time of your pregnancy, if you're feeling all of these different things, all of that affects the fetus, right? And then when you're born, I also seen this. Some of the children might look like their dads. So when these children are born, the mothers be angry at the child. They angry because who they had a kid with, and then they angry at the fact that you look like the father. So some women neglect their children just because of you remind me of your dad every time I see your ass. You get what I'm saying? But we never get to talk to this. We never get to talk to this point. We never get to have these conversations because, again, the moment you try to bring this up, it's going to be some deflection. It's going to be like, well, what about your dad? We're not talking about my dad right now because I definitely got heat from my pops. I got heat for deadbeat dads. I definitely do. But let's be real. I can't really say much about a person that wasn't there because although people try to say that you'd rather have a father or a person there than a person that's not there, I also don't want an abusive person to be there. That's the honest truth, right? Because in honesty, right, what is going to traumatize a child more? And I'm not trying to play the more game, right? But let's just be real. What is going to traumatize a child more? A person who wasn't there or a person who was there but was abusive emotionally, physically, and mentally? Let's just be real, right? Let's just be real. The child, probably the latter, right? The child is probably going to get more traumatized physically, mentally, and spiritually by somebody who is recurrently doing certain things. But we can never have these conversations. We can never be real. But I encourage people, like, if your parents harmed you, right? If you can, I always try to have conversations with my parents, right? Like I try to have conversations with my dad, and my dad was on some sucker shit. He was on some. As soon as I try to bring up to him, like, yo, where were you? Make sure you like the video so it can circulate. I try to talk to my pops. I forgave him because forgiveness was for me, not for him, right? I forgave him. I don't hold on to that baggage no more. It's you know, I released it, right? But I asked them, like, yo, was you there? Like, what was you thinking about? Like, did you think of me? Did you wonder if I ate? Did you miss me? Like, you know, like, what was your thought pattern for you not being in my life? Like, for abandoning me? Because you know what? Sometimes you don't know what it is, right? Sometimes there's three sides of the story, right? There's my father's story, my mother's story, and what actually happened. A lot of times people tend to see the stories from their own angle. So I try to get his story, right? Because my mom never really gave me much of a story. She just always tried to encourage me to talk to him and go be around him. So as I became an adult, when I got released from prison, I tried to talk to him and ask him why he wasn't in my life. I had a few questions. he couldn't even answer. The first thing that he did was he tried to blame my mom. And I was just like, yo, this shit is crazy. The deflection was crazy. So I couldn't even respect him as a man, right? Because it's like, bro, why you here we are as two grown men, adults, having a conversation, and you can't even really, and I know those are some hard questions, right? But I would have respected more like, you know what? I can't even answer that honestly, or I don't even know what to say, right? Like I can't even process like me feeling like, I would have understood that. But the fact that he tried to deflect and blame my mom, I couldn't respect that. I couldn't respect you as a man. I couldn't even, I was like, damn, like this dude can't even, bro, you acting like a woman. I'm already used to women not taking accountability. I'm used to that being part of their nature by now. I'm just like, whatever, they just not gonna take accountability. They just gonna be a certain way. But like men, I expect you to take responsibility and accountability, right? I have that expectancy, and maybe I shouldn't, but I hold men to a certain regard. Like we ain't gotta be playing around. We ain't gotta be acting like that. We ain't gotta be lying to ourselves. Like let's be real. Let's be men, right? And he couldn't even tell me. He couldn't even tell me. He tried to deflect. So a lot of our sisters be doing the same thing, right? When you try to have these conversations with your mom, like I have these conversations with my mother, like I don't really go too hard on her because I know she can't handle some of the shit I got to say, right? She can't handle some of the shit I got to say, but I'm also grateful for her sacrifice, right? But even in being grateful for your sacrifice, I can still highlight certain things that you did, certain things that was fucked up. I can do that. And I think that it's a healthy conversation to have, right? But like Charleston said, it's so hard to have those conversations. It's so hard to tell mama, like you was wild when you was young. Like it's some women who bring men in and out of their house and they don't think that's a problem, right? They say shit like mama need hers too, right? Mama need love too. Mama gotta live her life too. Yeah, but you gotta be mindful of who you bringing around your child. You got to be mindful how you respecting that young man. And then then there's some women. Listen, I know of a woman, and of course, this is not all women, but I know of a woman who, she left her like 4 kids. It was like 4 or 5 kids. She left like 4 kids. Like she just abandoned them. Like she clearly left them and went along with her life. Like she left her kids to fend for themselves type shit. And she did with some man, right? She did with some man. How many stories do we hear about women bringing a man to their house and that man molesting their children, right? And that man doing some foul shit to her kids or disrespecting her children. And then the children tell the mom, like, yo, this is what so-and-so did. And how many times do we see that woman take the man's side over her own children? How many times we see that? And we can never talk about that. So here are children dealing with abandonment. Here are children dealing with the abandonment of their dads, right? They're still trying to process that. And now on top of that, you placing the anger, your own anger, your frustration, and the recurrent traumatization that you are carrying out on those children. But we can't talk about that. You know what I'm saying? We can't talk about that. We can't talk about that, man. We can't talk about that. Especially the brothers. You don't let you have a boy. Don't let her have a boy and think he gonna be able to express himself because we man. So I definitely resonate with what he's saying. Like we have to, as a people, we gotta do better. Like I also gonna make a video about the brothers because it's not cool. Like as a man, how can you just have a child and not be there for your child? Like regardless of how you feel about the women. Like how could you just get up and leave and not think about your child? Not wonder if they ate, not wonder if they got Pampers. Like it's crazy. It's crazy how some of these brothers, but I don't want to talk too much because I want to say this for that own video. But it's crazy how some of these brothers will go out their way to get a chick, right? They'll do whatever they got to do to get a chick. They'll do whatever they got to do to get some money. But then it's like you won't even take care of your child. Like, what's up? I don't know, man. And like the brother said, but they do have kids for personal benefits or by mistake. Now it's cool. Like we get it. Some women get bamboozled, they get taken advantage of. They have a child by mistake. They learn from that mistake, and they be better at it, right? And then you have some people who have children for beneficial reasons, whether it's for taxes or tax write off, whether it's I'm gonna live my life through my child, right? How many parents tell their kids, you're gonna go to school, you're gonna be a lawyer, you're gonna be a doctor, not because they couldn't go to school and work as hard as you, because they didn't want to. Some of these parents didn't want to. Some of these parents they didn't want to. Let's just be real. It's like some slavery shit, honestly. How many times your mama called you in the room just to pass her the remote that might have been at the remote was on the nightstand or some shit, or the remote was not far from her hand, and she called you all the way from your room to her room so you could get her something, or she called you all the way from your room to her room so you could go in the kitchen and get her some soda. Come on, that shit is not right. Come on, y'all gonna say that shit is right? She called you all the way from your room to get her some shit that she could have got herself. Y'all gonna tell me that shit is right? Like the video circulate. That's not right. That's not cool. Come on. Like, but we can acknowledge that a lot of parents did fucked up shit. You know what I'm saying? A lot of parents did fucked up shit to their children. So it's not just the dads, it's also the moms. It's not just because the dad wasn't there. We're not gonna blame everything on the dad. Yes, fathers do have an accountability, but we gotta hold the people that stayed too accountable. Y'all appreciate it, Kenny. I already said that to you, but I appreciate you, bro. We've been rocking with each other for a few years now, man. You know what I'm saying? But man, you be bugging sometimes, but you know what I'm saying. You all right in my eye, man. Um, but yeah, like the brother said, they are unstable. And I'm not gonna go into the blame because I don't make videos about. I understand where some of it come from. At the end of the day, you have to be able, in order to deal with our women, you got to be able to know their nature. And a lot of men do not know female nature. They don't know the nature of women. And because they don't know the nature of women, they struggle and they have a hard time. Even I know the nature of women, but even in the nature of knowing the nature, I still struggle with women, right? I have a hard time communicating with them because I'm more rigid. Like we more about the facts, we more about the logic, they more about how the words that you said impact them or made them feel. They're all about the feelings, they're all about the pathos, right? Which is why and somebody that's operating in their feelings all the time is gonna make bad decisions, right? This is why like women a lot of times they need the guidance of a man, right? So I understand when a man is not in the house, when a man is not as present, that's not present, or she doesn't have a man to lead her, she gonna be all over the place. And at the same time, women have to understand this. I think this is the biggest problem. The problem is that women, they think they can be men. They think they can be as logical. They think they can be protectors. They think they can be whatever the man can be. And I think this is why there's a collapse in our communities. There's a collapse in the family structure. There's a collapse in strong children. We're raising weak children, emotionally unstable kids. So we see all of this, right? We're raising masculine women, we're raising feminine boys, um, or we're raising hyper masculine men and women. So it's a whole bunch of issues, and they knew what they was doing. They knew what they was doing when they removed the man from the household, when they attacked the man. They knew what they was doing when they tricked our women to turn against the man, and now we just fighting each other all the time, right? They knew what they was doing, and this is a byproduct. The children that we are raising, the dysfunctional kids, the dysfunctional households. And as long as we cannot see that, as long as we cannot see who's winning, because who wins? We don't win, they win. When we raise poor children, they win. When we raise emotionally unstable kids, they win. We feed the streets, we feed the prison systems, we feed their jobs, right? We feed them. Somebody is eating off of our suffering. We got to have more healing induced conversations. We got to try to repair the harm. And in a way that you repair the harm, sometimes you got to go back into the place where you was harmed, right? A lot of times you got to go back into the place where you was harmed. Yo, y'all always be going at it. Yo, y'all funny. Yeah, hilarious. But we got to go back into the place, and I know it's those are hard conversations, right? So, but I try to have those conversations with my mother. You get what I'm saying? When I get older, um, when I got older, I try to talk to my mom, and I told her how it made me feel when she picked the police over her son, right? And my mother gets it today, and she understands where she went wrong. She's not like, oh, but she's not making an excuse. She was like, yeah, I didn't know. I'm sorry. Like, I didn't know, I didn't realize, that the police was doing some of those things. She didn't understand, but she understood when I told her. I said, big facts. I lived through this. My dad died when I was one, and my mom kept someone around who used to beat the fuck out of me. Thank God I healed from that. Nothing can stop me but me. I appreciate you sharing your story, bro. Like that's real shit, man. Like a lot of times, and I get it. Sometimes women feel like they need the money, right? They need somebody around, or maybe this guy is paying bills. Maybe this guy is putting food on the table. He's doing certain things. But at what point, at the end of the day, like, as your mama bear, right? Your mama bear, and these is your cubs. This is not that man's kids. And sometimes I get it. Moms be in a tough situation because it's like, I need the financial help, but also, like, are you gonna, like, you also being abused, or your children is being abused? So it's a tough situation to be in. So I empathize. My whole thing is, as a woman that cause harm, as a mom that cause harm, you cannot neglect, and you cannot deflect. You should not deflect the fact that you played a role in traumatizing your kids and harming your kids. And that's all I be trying to say, right? All I be trying to say, like, cool, like, yeah, we can't just appreciate the good things you did, right? We can't just, it's not about just appreciating the good things you did and forgetting the bad, not highlighting the bad things. Like what, that don't make no sense. We're gonna talk about both. We're gonna talk about how great you was. We're gonna talk about how strong, how resilient, how much you sacrificed. We're gonna talk about all those good things, but we also gonna talk about the fucked up shit you did. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna try to figure out where that shit came from. Why did you do that to me? Why did you treat me this way? I think those are meaningful conversations to have, especially if you're trying to heal. Because a lot of our trauma comes from childhood, right? And what happens is, when you neglect it, when you don't go back to the places that harmed you, which is our parents, when you don't go talk to them, salute, Trap Buddha. When you don't go talk to your parents about the shit that they did. Well, some people don't even have, like, the self-awareness that a lot of the things that they do in adulthood come from being traumatized as a child. So, but when you do have that awareness and understanding, it's important for you to return to where you was harmed, to have that conversation with your parents, so that you can repair some of the harm. It's just like this, right? When you get skipped, let's just say you get skipped. Let's say you get skipped 7th grade, you go to 8th grade, but you don't really know the shit that you were supposed to learn in 7th grade, right? You kind of like just got skipped. You get to 8th grade, you don't really understand the material because you got skipped from 7th grade. So you need to learn the material in 7th grade to kind of like navigate through 8th grade. That's how life is, right? Life is, you got skipped, you got harmed, you got traumatized, right, early on, and then you just went on life surviving. You just went on life, just waking up, trying to live the best way you can, but you was bleeding. You was bleeding all over people. You was hurting. So you need to go back to the 7th grade. You need to go back to your parents. You need to go back to the places you was harmed. You need to go back to repair that harm in order to move on with your life accordingly. And that's the hard work that a lot of us got to do. We got to figure out where, oh, look at y'all made up in the chat. Oh, see, I like to see the growth, man. This is so true. People see their children as a retirement plan, right? You like, and the crazy thing is this. I wouldn't mind, see me, I wouldn't mind if you looked at your children that way. If you gave them the adequate tools. You don't got to be the best parent. You don't got to be, you get what I'm saying? But if you gave them the tool, if you invested in your children, if you pour into them, I still don't think you should be doing that with the intentions that, yeah, when they get older, hopefully they take care of me. Of course, you should want that. I think every parent wants that, right? They will want their child to take care of them. But the point is this: it's parents who do the bare minimum, right? The bare minimum is food and clothes and shelter. That's the bare minimum, right? You have me. You chose to have me. You got to do these things for me. Some parents do the bare minimum, and then they expect a big ass return on investment for doing the bare minimum. Like, yo, on some real shit, I worked since I was like 13. Since I was like 13, 14, I worked, right? Like, I wouldn't even want my children to do that, but I will make them work. Like, I will give them chores, and I will give them tasks, and I will reward them so that they can learn right from early on. The if when you do things, you get rewarded for it. So I will do that. But see what happens is this: I was working from a very early age because my mother couldn't give me certain things. She couldn't afford to do certain things for me. So you know what I did? I went out there and got it. I didn't really fully do illegal shit. I did some illegal shit, but for the most part, I had a job that was legal. But what can a parent tell a kid who is making his own money, right? You lose control. Mothers already lose control of their children by the time they get to teenage years. But when a child is making his own money, when you don't have that kind of like do this and I'll reward you kind of like system, when you can't do that, a lot of times you further lose the control over your kids, right? So the point that I'm saying that for is that, yeah, when you pour it into your kids, I wouldn't say they should be a retirement plan, like like the dude was saying in the video. Like, you gotta have your own shit, right? You gotta have your own life insurance, right? You shouldn't be waiting for me to get older to have all these things, to do all these things for you, right? A lot, to a certain extent, you should have your shit in order. I should come in when like you get older. Maybe I shouldn't put you in a nursing home. Maybe I shouldn't put you in one of them senior living, because they be abusing your parents there, right? So when it comes to that, like looking out for your mom, driving her somewhere, picking her up, or doing certain things for your parents, I agree with that. But some parents have this mindset of like, I didn't establish no retirement plan. I don't got no benefits. I don't got nothing. You gonna take care of me because I took care of you type of mentality. And I don't think that's correct. I don't think that's a I don't think that's an adequate mindset to have. And I'm gonna play this funny ass video one more time before I get up out of here.
Mama, I have a question. What's your retirement plan?
What you mean? You're my retirement plan. I didn't have no son for no reason.
Me? But Mama, you ain't got no money saved up nowhere or nothing like that?
Mama is still traveling, enjoying her life. Money saved up how? Plus, I'm gonna get benefits.
Well, I mean, you ain't gonna get no benefits. You was an OnlyFans girl, a video vixen, makeup, ain't nothing, a bottle girl. Like, no benefits come from that. The government don't give you benefits from that.
Well, then you better make sure you got a big ass house, all right? Because that's what I'm moving into if anything happens. Understand that, boy? Unless you're trying to tell me you don't love your mama, you gonna leave me out in the street to die.
No, I love you, but I don't think it should be mandatory because you messed up a little bit in life and then I gotta pick up the pieces. I'm gonna be a grown man.
Boy, you gonna pick up these pieces and you gonna like it. What the fuck?
No.
See, and that video is a funny example, right? I know he's using comedy to kind of like get to the people, but in the video, notice how when he's trying to have a conversation, a reasonable, real conversation with his mama about what is her retirement plan. Like, you're not gonna get no benefits. You was an OnlyFans girl, you was a bottles girl, you was doing jobs off the books or jobs that you're not gonna get no benefits for, right? It became you my retirement plan. The moment he tried to have a logical, reasonable conversation, it became, so you telling me you don't love your mama? And this is how conversations usually go, right? When you try to tell your mama about the fucked up shit she did, she gonna say, you don't love your mama? Your dad wasn't there. I stayed. He chose to leave. This is how you gonna treat me? This is the things I get. This is your ungratefulness. Like, it just be a lot of manipulation, a lot of gaslighting, a lot of deflection, and it'd be hard. It'd be hard. Because I talk to other people that be trying to have these conversations with their parents, And they also express the same thing, right? Like when I try to talk to my mom, she doesn't listen, or she's always making an excuse, or she's always deflecting. And I think I get it. I get it. I don't think you should force anything. Some of our parents are just not there. Some of our parents are just not ready to grow. They're just not. They probably stuck in a child zone. A lot of times, I don't want to put a lot of my business out here, but I understand some of the behaviors that my mom has, right? Like I understand how from a very early age, she was a parent to her older kids. So a lot of times, even if your parents are not ready to heal with you, one of the things that I do is I like to know about how my mother was raised. I like to know what was her childhood like, so I could understand more her patterns of behavior, so I can understand why she does the things that she does. Make sure you like the video so it can circulate. Um, so this is some of the things that I do. Even if and I do this with a lot of people, right? A lot of people are not cognizant mentally, right? They don't even know what's really going on. So I have to kind of like go in there. I have to go into their minds on my Professor X shit, and I have to do for those of y'all who know about X-Men, I have to go and play with their mind and mind fuck them, because it's like they're not gonna come clean and tell you certain things about themselves, right? They're not gonna be honest. They're not gonna be truthful about the harm or where it comes from, right? So sometimes you got to go in there. So what I do is I ask people what was their upbringing like, how did their mother raise them, what was their relationship with their siblings, you get what I'm saying? Like did they experience any type of hurt, or what was their relationship with their dad, what was their relationship with other relatives, right? So I ask these questions about like growing up, just to kind of like gauge what they say, right, or what was their memories. Another thing I do, like sometimes I ask people what is their story, right? When you ask somebody what is their story, and you ask open, the point is to ask open-ended questions and allow them to talk to you and allow them to tell you. See, because people are going to talk about the things that they hold on dearly, right? They're going to talk about the memories. So sometimes you got to gauge, what are those memories? Are there good memories? Are there bad memories? Are there struggle memories? Are there memories of joy, happiness, right? Or are they just memories of resentment? Because it's gonna come out. See, the more you talk to people, the more you sustain the conversation. It's called sustain talk, right? And they teach this in motivational speaking, like for clinicians and stuff, right? So the more you sustain, the more you ask open-ended questions. Don't ask questions that make people defensive. Don't ask them why you did that. Another way to ask why is how come. But always avoid the why question, and or ways that, or why would you do that? Like, like it just comes off in a certain way, and most people are prone to become defensive when you ask them certain things. So when you're having these conversations with people, try to have them with them in a way where they don't become defensive, right? Of course, it shouldn't be your job, right? But when you're trying to extract information from people, it's important how you relate the message to them. So that's just what I do. I try to learn everything about my mom. I try to learn about her childhood, how she met my father, um, you know, why she got married. Like, I try to learn all of those different things because I try to gauge and understand her train of thought, her level of education back then, all of these different things. When she came into the country, that's just conversations that I have with my mom. With my father, I didn't really get to do that, right? I haven't really gotten to do that with like my grandmother passed away, so I didn't really get to do that with her. My great grandmother's still alive. Hopefully, I want to gauge her mind, right? Like I want to have those conversations with her. She's like 99 or 98. She's about to be 99. So, like, yes, like the elders, the older people got the wisdom. They kind of like, we should be sitting with our elders more and getting information from them, even if we think our elders is dumb, or they used to smoke crack, or they used to smoke whatever. But like, even those people that did drugs, even like I talk to people, right? Like I talk to homeless people. I was talking to this brother one time, like randomly in the street. Like he was older than me. I was out, what I'm saying, I was out in Harlem or whatever, and we was just having a conversation, and he was telling me how, he was fucked up and he was homeless. or shit was hard or whatever. And he was just telling me, and I was just asking him how Harlem used to be. And we were just having a conversation, right, like about the neighborhood and stuff like that. And and then I was asking him how did he end up in the situation that he ended up in. He was just telling me like, yeah, man, he wasn't homeless, like stinking and shit, but what I'm saying, it's levels to it. He was just messed up, like probably crashing on somebody's couch. Like homelessness looks different. Um, Even when I was homeless, right, like I bumped into a homeless dude, and I was like, he was asking me for change. He was asking me for some money to get something to eat. He was telling me he just came home. And I remember I gave him the money and I walked off. But then I came back to him and I was like, yo, I'm homeless too. He looked me up and down and he was like, and again, he didn't look like somebody, he wasn't sleeping in the street, right? So he looked me up and down. He was like, you don't look homeless. And I asked him like, yo, how does homeless look though? And he was like, you're right. I said, I'm homeless just means you don't have a house, bro. Like you don't have a stable house. You could be crashing from couch to couch. You could be, whatever, right? In a shelter. Like homelessness looks different, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you're sleeping on a train or you're sleeping in the streets. So I broke that down to him and I let him know, like, I was locked up too, homie. Like, I'm struggling every day, and I'm trying to get right, and I'm trying to do the right thing, and it's a struggle out here, and it's going to be a struggle, and you're constantly going to be tempted and tested, right? Whether you're going to keep doing the right thing or you're going to succumb to your old ways. And it's tough when you're in those situations where you don't got a stable place to live, when you don't got a job, when certain things ain't going for you, because it's easy for you to return to the things I'm gonna go get it, right? So it was a good conversation, and I think that a lot of times we just, especially living in New York, we don't be having time for each other. We don't got time for each other. Like, that's just on some friend tip. We don't got time for each other on a family tip. We just don't be having time to even talk to people, like build relationships. So I said all of that to say this, like, talk to your parents, man. Like, call them. Like I said, understanding where they're coming from is gonna pacify and ease some of the pain or the trauma that they caused you. I guarantee understanding why they did the things that they did, understanding. Of course, I understand some parents, they're not ready for that. And but instead of getting them to say sorry, instead of getting them to admit their wrongs, especially the mamas, because we talking about black mothers, right? Especially getting them to admit their wrongs, don't even approach it that way. Just ask them how they was raised, ask them how they grew up, you know, probe, right? Don't come up straight up, you've been sexually assaulted. Like, they're probably not gonna want to tell you that, right? Because moms try to hide certain things, right? There used to be mothers who used to prostitute and their children never knew. There used to be mothers that did things, man, to get money to take care of their kids, and their children never knew because they didn't glorify that life. But the women of today, they don't have no shame. These women are on the internet. Back then, they didn't even have the internet like that. Back then, those mothers who was freaking off and doing little some strange for a piece of change, they did it. Nobody, like, it wasn't out on the internet. It wasn't out crazy, right? Like, they probably had like a few tricks that they used to sleep with and do little sexual favors to get some money or get the bills paid. But it wasn't out there like that. Today, that shit is all on the internet. And again, these mothers are not cognizant, or they don't even care about the impact that that's going to have on their children, because in their head, the end justified the means. So what if I got to put my pussy on the internet? So what if I got to have sex tapes and have guys doing all type of wild shit to me on the internet on video that is probably going to be up there forever? So what if I got to do that? As long as I'm taking care of my kid, as long as I'm feeding them, as long as I'm maintaining a roof. Like, this is how some people are thinking. But it's going to come a time where it's like, yo, those kids going to have to answer for your sins. They're going to have to answer for your mistakes. When they start going to school and people's like, yeah, that's why your mom be selling pussy for $4.95. You know what I'm saying? That's going to create a lot of fights. And again, I'm not here to, this is just a insightful conversation. This is just insightful conversation. And like my sister said right here, emotionally unstable kids is a big thing. It is. and that's a byproduct of both parents, right? That's a byproduct of the abandonment of the father. That's a byproduct of the traumatization that those kids currently go under, living with that mom, right? Again, this is not about blame game. This is just about acknowledging the wrongs that we all play a part in. It's not about you did more than me and XYZ. It's about, can we all acknowledge that we done wrong in raising our kids, right? Or what did we instill in our children? Or what did we give our children? What tools did we give them? Did we give them enough to survive in the world, right? Because the first place of education of the children is the household. But a lot of parents, they neglect their kids. So what they do is they neglect their kids and they solely depend on the school system and the AKA indoctrination system to teach your kids. They depend on the indoctrination system to educate your kids, to feed them misinformation. And you know, Malcolm X said this one time, right? He said, only a fool will let his enemy educate his children. But again, a lot of people don't understand who the enemy is or what's even being done. A lot of people think that we just living in messed up conditions because we like it. We like dysfunction. We love this toxic shit. We just want to be poor. We just want to be starving and be hungry and live paycheck to paycheck. And we just want to eat unhealthy food. Some of us do. But I get the point. People, this is the narrative they try to sell. Like, we just want to be fucked up. Right? But anyway, I've been here for an hour. Y'all know I don't like to be here long because you know what I'm saying. Then the videos get to like 2 hours. Y'all remember that time I was on here for like 5 hours? Yo, that was crazy. I remember that one time I was here for like 5 hours. But I did miss y'all, man. I ain't gonna lie with y'all in a minute. I've been kind of like trying to revamp what I say. You know, I was having a conversation with one of my friends, and my friend told me, she said, yeah, definitely. My friend told me, she said, yo, she said, yo, you used to have a more restorative approach. You know, like when you used to talk, when you used to say certain things, you used to have a more restorative approach. And she said, now you just got like this cold, snobby. I don't think she said snobby. I'm using snobby. But she said, you got like this cold, like approach now. Like you just like, you used to be about repairing, and healing, and you know, and now you just like, it's like you just don't care like how your words impact or what they do, right? Like it's almost like, yeah. So you know, I kind of like was reflecting on that, and I was like, you know what, she's right. I was like, you know what, she's definitely right. Like I did have a more yes, I am fatigued. um yeah, so she was like, you know, you used to have a certain type of energy that you used to put out there, and now you just like, you just cold, man. And it's like, you know, sometimes that could impact your message that you got for the people. Make sure y'all like the video circulate. And I agree. And I was thinking, I was doing some self-reflecting, and I realized that like you can't talk to women the same way you talk to men, right? Which is why I rather talk to the men, right? Because I could go tell my brother, like, you need to get your fucking shit together. Fuck is wrong with you, bro? Tighten up. I could say that to my mans. And you know what? My man's not gonna start whining. He's not gonna be like, why are you talking to me like that? Be mindful of the words. The way you relate the message is very important. My man's not gonna do that. My man's not gonna do that. You know what my man's gonna do? He gonna be like, yo, you right. You right, homie. But the emotional men, right? The bitchy men, right? The men who lack in masculinity and maybe some testosterone too, they're gonna be like, well, why are you talking like that? I don't appreciate the way you're talking to me. Right? Which is the same shit the women do. The women are always concerned with how the words that you use make them feel. That's the number one concern. They're always concerned with how your words made them feel. It's not about what you're saying, right? And I need you brothers to understand this, because I think that's my role, right? I'm a masculinist. I try to educate the brothers on the nature, on human nature, right? By the way, I'm gonna be posting my first video on my subscription, right? Because I'm gonna give you out a breakdown of this human nature book, so you can learn how to deal with people, right? It's gonna give you the whole breakdown of human nature. And I think anybody who is working with people, or who is trying to understand people and better their relationships, you need to understand how the minds of people work, men and women, because we are wired differently mentally. Fuck what they trying to teach you in school. See, school trying to play with the genders. They trying to bend the genders. They trying to create this weird, fluid, confused society. Don't subscribe to that shit, man. I'm telling y'all right now. Don't get caught up in that shit. Do not get caught up in that shit. They trying to lose people. They trying to confuse the shit out of y'all. They trying to, like, a lot of people is getting sucked into that right there. They're lost in the sauce, in the matrix. Get what I'm saying? God created us a certain way for a certain reason. Opposites attract, right? Even when you have batteries, right? When you have batteries, you got to put them upside down, right? You got to put the negative with the positive charge, the positive with the negative charge on the bottom. That's just the law of nature. Even though you have some small variations, right? Overall, you got the laws of nature. And you have men trying to bend and change the laws of nature, which is why it goes back to this. We're having problems in our community, right? The sisters, some of the sisters don't want to be led. They want to do the leading, right? They want to do the leading until it's time to fight and defend the community. Then they want to step back and tell the brothers, all right, you go now and go fight. Nah. It's either I'm going to have the whole situation or I'm not. You don't pick and choose when you want. It's like a lot of these sisters are saying they're anti-patriarchy. They're anti-patriarchy, but they still want to be provided for. They still want to be protected. They still want to be taken care of. They still want the perks of patriarchy. The only thing that they don't want of patriarchy is to be under the leadership of a man. That's really what they don't want. They don't want to be over the dominance of a man. The only time they want that is, yeah, go to war, yeah, protect the house, protect the country, go fight for me, go do what you need to do, right? But it's like, yo, if you look at 90% of jobs, they're dominated by men, right? They don't want to accept it's crazy how men are so underappreciated, but I don't even want to go into that, man. I don't even want to go into that. I don't want to go into that because this is not what this video is about. But you know what? Since y'all sitting here right now, I'm gonna play y'all. This is gonna be a little bonus that I did on one of my other videos. But I'm gonna play y'all this little bonus real quick.
This war between masculinity and femininity. What are you witnessing from the inside through your this war between masculinity?
Man, this thing is tripping.
This war between masculinity and femininity. What are you witnessing from the inside through your work?
I have seen over the years in my practice a steady decline in the expression of healthy masculinity and healthy femininity amongst my patients. In the last 2 years, I've seen a complete collapse. Men in my practice, especially younger men in their teen years, their 20s, early 30s, have no ability to express desire for women in a healthy way, to interact with women verbally and socially in a healthy way. And many of them have no desire to even be engaged in a sexual relationship with a woman. They have substituted their libido and their expression of libido by pursuing women, which is a healthy thing for men to do. If men stop pursuing women, we're done. We don't have more human beings. They're no longer doing that. They're now sitting at home playing video games and watching porn because it's safer and it's easier to do that. And they will never be rejected and they will never be criticized. They will never be told that they are toxic, that they are part of the patriarchy, that they are misogynistic, that they are committing a social faux pas. So they have given up. They've just taken themselves out of the dating world. They've taken themselves out of the social world with women. And women on their part are completely perplexed. They don't know what to do. They're alone. They feel abandoned. They feel unattractive. They feel undesirable. They can't find a date, much less a husband. They can't get married. They can't have children. The separation between the male and the female is almost complete now. And it's due specifically to the ongoing attacks against masculinity and the degradation of femininity, the propaganda that has been pushed by the radical feminists that define success for women to be competition with men, vanquishing men, full and complete independence from men. You don't need a man, which is a biological and social lie. That has been so successful that now both men and both women think that they can live apart. But the truth is they can't, because when they come into my practice and I ask them how they're doing, they're not doing well. The men are completely without a course. They are listless. They are dysphoric. They are dysthymic. The women are depressed and anxious, and none of them are talking to one another. So this attack on masculinity and femininity is, in my view, undergirding a large degree of the psychological distress, particularly in younger people right now. And as they continue to lead these separate parallel paths of isolation, there will be no way for them to develop the skills and even the desires that are necessary for them to get together and to marry and to have children and develop families. And if our family structure is lost in the next generation, what do we have left? We're just a bunch of listless individuals living our lives out virtually behind a computer screen, working remotely, and following the orders of the government.
He broke that down. What's your thoughts on that? You know, he broke that down to a T, right? The attack on masculinity and the degradation. That should be his own video. I already made a video about men need women and women need men. Like, we need to like get it together. But I'm gonna make another video. They recently conducted a study that said that a lot of men are they did something about pornography because it's like they not pursuing women like that because it's like they're getting their dopamine, they're getting their pleasure met through porn, right? But yeah, he basically, yeah, man, like he spoke about the degradation of femininity, right? How like a lot of our sisters, they be saying things like, well, not our sisters, society is putting this image, this idea in their head that like, you know, being soft is weak, like, and it's okay to be weak. Like, it's okay to be weak, right? When they say protect the women and children, it's not because they strong. It's because you're weak. You're physically weak. We have to protect you. We have to take care of you. You know, we got to protect the elderly. Men have a responsibility. We have to do that. And that's okay, right? We was created a certain way for a certain reason, right? Your the power of femininity lies somewhere else, not in the physical, not in the going out there to fight. You get what I'm saying? We all got our roles, right? The man fight, he accumulates wounds, he gets hurt, and then the woman was the nurturer, right? She patches up those wounds. She heals her home, her community, her people, right? Right? Look at it like this. In society, you need an army, right? And you also need hospitals. It makes sense. You need an army to fight, to protect, to ensure our safety so that we can do everything that we've been doing. And then you need a hospital right? You need hospital, you need food to nourish, you need hospital to heal the wounded, right? Or whatever holistic approach, which is, then you need the spiritual too, right? So it makes sense. It's a balance. But because they're attacking masculine men, they're out here putting them in dresses. It's like modern day buck breaking, right? Except that they don't really need to rape you anymore. And they just tell you, yo, wear a dress, put some lipstick on, you know, or they give you some crazy movie roles. But this is what they're doing. They're telling you go out there and do this, right? They're attacking masculinity, and then they're telling women you shouldn't be feminine. You need to be strong and independent. You should be able to do the same things men do. And they're buying into it, right? And part of the reasons I believe it's so easy for our sisters to buy into this bullshit is because I believe a lot of women have penis envy. They connect power to having a penis. And they don't even realize that when you neglect your own femininity, you're neglecting your own power. They don't even realize. This is why the men who are feminine, they would never have power and femininity. This is why these dudes who want to be, who think they are women, you will never have power and femininity. Never. Right? And the women, they will never have power and masculinity. Right? Like, yeah, you might have a position. Yeah, you might be doing good for yourself. You might be making some money, but the men are not looking at you like, oh, yeah, like, yeah. A lot of times successful women end up alone because nobody want to be with them. It changes who they are. Nobody wants to be with a masculine. Well, some dudes do. some dudes out there want to be with the masculine chick. I'm like, listen, man, hey, I find that kind of weird. But some dudes do. Some dudes do want the masculine chicks, right? But for the most part, men don't want to be with no masculine chick. It's like being with himself, right? But anyway, I don't want to get into I went away from the conversation. But this whole video was about black mothers can't do no wrong in the black community. If you're just tuning in, you probably should go back. I showed like 2 video clips. We the chat was going, was cool. We was chatting. But I just wanted to highlight how a lot of times we can never really get to talk about the harms that our women have done in the community, the mothers specifically. A lot of times we can't talk about the negative things. But yeah, Ashley, I'm definitely fatigued. I'm tired. I'm having some of these conversations. Every time you turn on the computer is a conversation about men and women. And I don't think those conversations are solution based. I think a lot of times the conversations are for content purposes. Are they just like dumping grounds where it's just like everybody popping off? There's a lot of trolling that be going on. And I don't think those are meaningful dialogues. I think a lot of times the dialogues just kind of like fuel the conversation more. I mean, fuel the divide more. But yeah, it's a lot of it gets tiring, and then you don't want to do that shit no more. Like it's just like you gotta work. That's why I came to the realization where it's like I'm just gonna work with my tribe, right? Like it's annoying. And I get it. You know what's crazy? And I know this is gonna sound crazy, but I understand now why, like, the women wouldn't be allowed to talk when men were having a conversation. And I also don't think men should be getting involved in the conversation of women, right? Like I feel like this is kind of like what's happening now. Like the men are having a conversation, and the woman will come, put their 2 cents, or try to have an argument or a debate with men. And it's like, yo, I get it now. I get why the women were not allowed to talk in those spaces, because it's like most women, not all, because you got some women that could hold their own. You got some women who think logically, and they could understand. They have the ability to understand. You got some women who can hold their own, but for the most part, the conversation just never goes nowhere, because you got one person talking from a point of feelings, from a point of pathos, of how the word is making them feel and how they're processing them. And then you got another being talking from a point of logic. He talking from a point of reasoning. He talking from a point of what the word actually means. What is the definition? How do you probably contextualize the word and how you use it in a sentence or to explain certain things? One person is thinking like that, and another person is just concerned about how the words feel, what emotions they bring up in them. I even recently, I've been paying attention to this. I even noticed how some women, they create their own definitions for words. Like you might tell them the word means this, and this is what I catch myself doing today, right? Going in the dictionary and bringing up the definition of the word, and I hate doing that. Like I hate having to express or explain to grown ass people what a word means and how they're using that out of context. Like that shit is so annoying. It's so annoying. Like you don't know like how annoying that shit is, that every time I'm talking to you, like I have to sit here. It's almost like talking to a baby. And I said this in another video. Women are like grown kids, right? It's like, when they don't get what they want, they nag, they pout, they throw tantrums. That's the same shit children do. And then even when you're trying to talk to them, when you're trying to explain certain things to them, it's like talking to a child, right? A child doesn't really understand certain things. It only understands its impulse, right? This is why children need parents to guide them and tell them this is acceptable, this is unacceptable, right? They need the guidance. The same way that our sisters need the man guidance, right? And I know a lot of them don't like that because, they smart in their own way, and they wanna rebel, and they wanna compete with men, which is weird, right? And it's so funny because it's like the woman would tell a man like, y'all weird for trying to compete with women. Like what type of man competes with women? But at the same time, they competing with men, or they trying to be like men, or they wanna, like, it's just like I don't get it. I don't really get it. So I am fatigued actually. Um, I'm just like, this shit is draining. So I'm just gonna find my tribe. Like, I'm gonna build with the people. Like some of y'all been rocking. Liu King been here for a minute. You, Ash, Kenny from the A. There's a few people. Some names escape me. Y'all don't get too crazy with me now. Some names escape me, but like, I've been rocking with some of y'all for a minute. Like, what I'm saying? So, but this is part of building community and building your own tribe. Like, rocking with the people who rock with you, building with the people who understand where you're coming from. You have similar understanding, and working together to build our own little tribe, right? Like, we all kind of live in different states, but this is the good thing about the internet, right? The internet is kind of like it could connect people to do good things. Like, look, there's 5 people here. That's cool. And when you go to some of them other rooms, it might be like 100 people on stage. It might be like 200 people. But then when you hear the conversation, the shit don't even be meaningful. Like it be gossip. It be shit that don't even move us forward. It be shit that don't even have us reflecting. Like it just be all laughs, entertainment, distraction. And then after that, it's just like that be it. That be the end of it. But hey, that's their tribe. You get what I'm saying? They got their tribe over there, and they got whatever they got going on. But they ain't really going nowhere. And people ain't really going nowhere. They just spiraling. They doing the hamster dance, the hamster wheel. You get what I'm saying? So, and that's not to throw shade on nobody. That's just the reality, right? Some people, it's not going nowhere. We can't save everybody, and I ain't trying to save the world. I'm trying to save myself and my family, and I'm trying to like preach the gospel, teach. I don't preach, I teach. I'm trying to teach the gospel to some of the folks. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to do what to do, but that's just what it's about, man. But I hope y'all enjoyed this. I hope y'all appreciate it. I'm gonna try to go live once a week. It might be on Sundays. I'm still kind of like thinking about it. yeah, I think I'm gonna be going live once a week. I just need like extensive topics to, so I'm gonna probably like look up some stuff. Like, there's always stuff going on, right? So I'm gonna but that's my intentions, to go live once a week so I could build with y'all, so I could connect with y'all, so we could do the damn thing. You know what I mean? But on that note, y'all take care, y'all be safe. Toodles. Peace out. Yeah, y'all be safe out there.